For our last big 10,000-pound elephant in the room, Cory, and I know you're a chart guy. I know you got a chart for this, is the mighty U.S. presidential election. Cory, who are you voting for?
I guess it depends on who's running.
I threw one at you there. All right, what's your chart say? You know I don't like charts. What do you got here?
Well, this is talking about the public trust versus basically political elitism. And this chart, what we have here is showing the public trust in government is nearing historic lows. And as you can see, going back to 1958, during the Eisenhower administration, this has trended lower. In terms of the percentage of people who trust the government in Washington, always or most of the time. What is the reason for this, Jake? What do you think when you look at this?
I think that our society has been polarized. And I think that this country lacks leadership. And I think that's what's caused this. I think that we are yearning, we're starving for somebody who can lead this country and get it back on track. Whether you want to talk about national debt, patriotism, whatever, all of it, I think, Cory, most all of it could be improved. And I think it starts with leadership. So I blame this chart on the leaders of America over the last 50 years, because I think they just have been self-serving and they have their own agendas, and they're all speaking, Cory, to one side of the political arena instead of both sides. And I'm not a politician, and I don't really like politics. And maybe that's what hurts. And maybe you have to talk to only the Republicans or only the Democrats to get elected. But I would love to see somebody, Cory, that talked to everybody. And I think that's what great leaders do, is that they are able to communicate see both sides and communicate effectively to both sides. And I think that's what this country needs. That's why I think cost it. Why do you think
that's good.
Why do you think it happened?
A lot of the same reasons. The lack of humility, I think, from the elected officials over the last several decades. Because one thing that stands out when I look at this is there's Democrats and Republicans on there. It clearly does, like, my opinion when I look at that is it actually has less to do with parties and it has more to do with elected officials. And I think that the reality is that there has been, elected officials have ultimately pursued policies that are at odds with what the people that voted them in desire. And like, until that gets rectified, there's an issue. The point that you made about, some things being fractured as far as society goes is that if the people that are elected have their own policies that they're pursuing that are not aligned with the constituents that elected them, that leads to this.
True. That's a very good point, because that's how you break trust. You don't do what you say you're going to do. So I think what you're getting at is there's a lack of integrity, right?
Yes.
And again,
absolutely.
Well, first off, they're alienating half of the population because they are only speaking to half. And then they're not doing what they say they're going to do. Or maybe they are, and again, people still don't trust them. So this is the point that I want to make on this, though. And I want to be very clear here that the markets have gone up or down during Republicans and Democrats in office. So I don't want our Republican clients to be disappointed if a Democrat wins, and I don't want our Democrat clients to be disappointed if a Republican wins, just based on market. Now, you can be disappointed, obviously, but I'm just talking about your portfolio and your investments. What I want to avoid, Cory, is somebody winning the election that a client disagrees with, and they call us up and say, I want to get out of the stock market. I don't like this politician. Because ultimately, the free markets hopefully will adapt and pivot, and they'll find ways to make money based on the rules. And so the worst thing we could have as it comes to the election is a contested election or not a clear winner, which would again be an unknown and create more volatility and more uncertainty. So all I want to see is a winner, whoever it is. It's clear, and that we can find out what their agenda is, Cory, whatever it is, and then we move forward and we adjust and adapt based on that. So again, regardless of your political affiliation, you want somebody that has a stance so that we can pivot from an investment standpoint and make sure that we've got you invested in a sector or an area that stands to do well based on policy. Unfortunately, that's just the way it has to be. You can't have anarchy. You can't have no rules. So there's got to be some policy in there, and you just want to be able to align with that policy. Because if you resist it as an investor, you're not doing yourself any good. Does that make sense?
It does. And I think the last two presidential elections, Jake, are perfect examples of what you're talking about. Because I remember vividly all of the headlines and the narrative that if Donald Trump was elected president in 2016, that the world was going to fall apart, stock market was going to crater, and that would be it. And obviously that's not what happened. But the same thing held true actually in 2020. The predictions were that if President Biden won the White House and the Democrats controlled Congress, that the market would crash and so on and so forth. And the market was up over 25% in 2021, the first year of President Biden's election. The point there being, we have two distinct examples from the last two elections on both sides, both political parties. We just have lived through it, and we're going to live through it again over the course of the next year, but keep that in mind.
That's good. Yeah, this too shall pass.